Okay, so before I talk to you about debt collection agencies that are good, like the one that I work for is a pretty good company. We don't deal with a lot of lawsuits. We do have a legal department. We have a legal department that takes care of what we're supposed to do before, like what the letters are supposed to say, and we have a legal department that takes care of what happens afterwards. If someone complains, files a lawsuit or whatever, we don't have that many. But there are a lot of agencies, even in Minnesota, that get a really bad reputation, but it's for good reasons. They don't follow the FDCPA. They have mean collectors or collectors that are just out to get money and they don't care who it's from even. I'll get into that a little later. And then there's a lot of agencies that just don't fulfill the paperwork like they're supposed to. There's a lot of computer work and programming that goes into when you close an account, it's got to be sent back a certain way. Otherwise, it didn't count. It doesn't count as being paid. The first thing I'm going to talk about for bad agencies is illegal acts that they might do when they're on the phone with a customer. The FDCPA is something that the debt collectors all have to follow. They all have to follow every single rule exactly, otherwise there's a lawsuit right there. The first thing that they have to make sure to do is call the people within a certain amount of time. They can only call from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., their local time. And I can see how it might be an accident that they would call, maybe they call the West Coast by accident an hour earlier than they're supposed to. But a lot of places just harass people. Another thing they're supposed to do is they're supposed to cease communication upon request. So if a person calls in and they say, don't call me anymore, or they write in, however they want it done, but some collection agencies have to have it in writing. If they write in and say, cease collections, you have to close that account and you can't touch it again. Some places will keep harassing you because they think that person knows it. I'm gonna keep calling them, but that's not right. They can't keep harassing people like that. Another thing, causing a telephone ring or engaging any person in telephone conversation repeatedly or continuously with intent to annoy, abuse, or harass. And this is any person at any number. I know that a lot of people call in and say, this isn't my debt, I don't know who this is, you have the wrong number. And the collector won't take that number out of the system. So they'll keep calling them and calling them, knowing that it most likely isn't the right number, but they're going to keep it in there because maybe that's the only number that's in there, or they just don't want to take it out. It's really strange how collectors' minds work sometimes. Communicating with consumers at their place of employment. If they say, don't call me at work, don't call them at work. You could lose your job for getting too many phone calls, and collectors know that they'll get in trouble. So maybe they think that if they keep calling the place of employment that it'll get the person to pay, but it's against the law, so there's really no reason to do that at all. You can't contact a consumer known to be represented by an attorney. Once that person says, I have an attorney, call this person, once you have that contact information, you can't call that consumer at all anymore. So you're supposed to only call the attorney. And that's the same with a spouse. The spouse and the attorney are the only other people besides that consumer that you can talk to about anything. If you call a neighbor, some people do call neighbors and friends and mother-in-laws and whatever. You can't tell them anything. You can't mention the word debt, collections, they owe money, nothing. If your company name has a debt collection word in it, you can't even put that in a letter. So you can't let anybody else know that that person has debt anywhere. So that goes into the whole publishing the consumer's name or address in a bad debt list. You can't put a name on the list like that. You can't just defame a person's name like that. Seeking unjustified amounts of money. This would include demanding any amounts not permitted under contract. That would be something. It's not so much if the person the collector were to call up and say, we can offer you a settlement of 50% when really they could take 20% and be done with it. It's not like that. It's some places call up and they want money for a fee for the check, or they want $20 because your payment was late. They can't do stuff like that. They have to, there's a specific amount that's owed, and that's it. You can't use abusive or profane language. Honestly, it's really hard to hold your tongue sometimes when someone is yelling at you, because there are customers like that call in. But you have to hold your tongue. You can't say anything. A lot of people have been fired for that, and it takes one time, and that should be that. But there are a lot of companies out there there are a lot of places in the news right now that constantly harass people. And the same with contact by embarrassing media, such as communicating with the consumer regarding debt by postcard. That's the same as defaming someone's name. I got a little messed up there. Let's see. So reporting false information on a consumer's credit report. That's the same thing. You can't threaten to do that either. A lot of collection agencies do own their debt, so they can report to the credit bureaus, but you can't say, like my collection agency, we don't own the debt, so we can't report to a credit bureau. The most we can do is an inquiry. We can't say, well, we're going to put a bad line in the credit bureau because of this, you're not going to pay. You can't say stuff like that. You just have to say, okay, you're not going to pay. We'll just have to continue sending you letters, and we'll probably have to call you, but that's only if you want to do something. You can't harass people, you can't defame their name, you have to follow their requests. And a lot of places don't do that. The mean collectors, that's another subject. There's a lot of collectors that just have bad days. And when they get going, you just can't, you have to just go home. There's rules that need to be followed, and if they're not in the mood to follow them, they do get sent home, and a lot of the times they don't from other collection agencies. A lot of collection agencies, that's just how they are. They're just mean. They're rough, abrasive people, and I've met a lot of them that's just the way they are. That's the way a lot of them are. There's a lot of kids that are in there now. There's a lot of 20-year-olds in my company, and they're all going to get, they're probably going to get a little bitter as time goes on with people. There's a lot of customers calling and they yell at you, but you just have to, there's a lot of people that take that and keep it, but there's a lot of people that just let it go when they get done with work. But a lot of collectors keep it, and I think it makes them feel like they're going to get the money if they're mean, but it just doesn't work like that. But any company can have a bad employee, and any employee can have a bad day. It's just who you get when you call in. So a lot of places, there's a lot of places that are just all bad too. Not fulfilling the deals. That's when you agree on a settlement with a customer, you don't send them a letter showing this agreement, and they send you the money, and then they pay it off the settlement as agreed to the terms, but they don't have a letter, and then you don't agree to close the account as settled. That's not fulfilling the deals, and a lot of places do that, and they say, well, you owe the rest of the money. That wasn't a deal. So if you're going to do anything, get it all in writing, because there are a lot of bad places out there. If you don't want to deal with them, you can write a letter to say, I don't want to deal with your company, please cease communication. Hopefully they'll listen to you, and hopefully you'll find another collection agency that can help you out better in the future.